Chapter 59. Blue. The week passes without any more incidents. We don't hear again from Thana, and aside from Dot's check-in to pick up some things for the trek, there have been no more knocks on the back door. The people at school have picked up on the newly formed bond between my master and the prince. It's been a little chaotic, as people keep trying to get close and rub shoulders with the prince, but it's not unmanageable. There are plenty of familiars that suddenly want to talk with me, and while my disastrous failure during the casting hasn't been forgotten, it has been mostly buried by the new allure of my proximity to royalty. Most of the new friends that want to talk are even worse at disguising their fishing questions than Thana. It's not hard to play dumb, and it doesn't take long for them to lose interest and leave me alone. That gives me plenty of time to worry about the event coming up. Shauna's taking my master out this weekend. It's something that's been impossible to forget since Ande keeps bringing it up. "I don't know, Ande," I say for the millionth time, taking him in with a critical eye. "What's the matter with you?" The mass of a familiar is sprawled across a beanbag, curling around it like it's a big pillow. It would look odd regardless, but he's also been reluctant to let anyone come close or cuddle and sleep beside him, when he's normally used to his body being used as a pillow. His eyes droop with fatigue, but he's already fallen asleep twice today. All in all, he's the picture of pure misery.
"It's the winter. It's getting to me,"
he groans, rolling off of his beanbag, but not bothering to catch himself as he tumbles on the carpet. He doesn't bother to correct his body after he rolls to an unceremonious stop, but he pulls in his limbs a little and shuts his eyes with what can only be described as a whine. I've never seen him act like this. It's utterly antithetical to how I think of him. I see no wounds on his body, and he's not flushed with fever, but even still, I always pictured him as too strong to be moved by anything. Shauna isn't like my master, but she hasn't hurt him, not in any way that I know of. Even considering how much of his body is obscured by his clothes, he's not favoring one side or even complaining of anything. Avery skirts around where Ande's curled himself into a miserable pile and lets herself curl into the beanbag. "Big Bear over here wants to hibernate," she answers, like that explains anything. Unlike Ande, Avery is sporting a new injury, a purpling bruise just under her jaw, and a matching one by her eye. It's a surprise every time I see it. Nothing about her has changed. She's not any meeker or quieter about her opinions for it. I know injuries like that. I've had my share. They're not painless, and they work as reminders of what you did to deserve them. The wound isn't old. It hasn't had time to yellow and fade, and yet she's not suffering for it. She's still the same as she always is. It's impressive, and more than a little awe-inspiring. Enoki approaches Ande's fallen form on his hands and knees like he's capable of being stealthy, and very, very slowly brushes his hand a hair's breadth away from his ears, smirking at the involuntary twitch it causes. Ande lets out a half-hearted growl and shifts away from him, but Enoki is far too fascinated by the twitch to let it go that easily. He does wait until the bear has settled into a new position before he creeps closer. "So he wants to sleep for the winter? Maker, that must be so annoying." Enoki speaks distractedly, moving his hands back into position over Ande's ears.
"I wouldn't know. I've never done it before,"
Ande huffs, trying resolutely to ignore the involuntary twitching of his ear. "What do you mean, never?" I can't help the way the question comes out. Ande's clearly been through more than one winter. How the hell has he never done this before?
"Well, I've never felt the urge to sleep through winter before. But earlier this month it was getting hard to ignore the body aches and the weariness. My mistress was very understanding, giving me space and letting me rest more than normal. But when it didn't get any better, she took me to see someone."
Ande groans as he sits up, shooting Enoki a withering glare. Enoki has the decency to look away, but clearly not enough to pretend to look remorseful.
"Apparently my old mistress kept me on a set of drugs. vitamins and supplements and a stimulant that kept me from feeling the pull of my biology, obviously. I hadn't thought anything of it at the time. We all had medications in that house, and with how far we are into winter, there's no time to get it back into my system.
Ande sighs and blinks tiredly. Enoki raises his hand again, but this time Ande catches it in the air. Ande fixes him with a dead stare, and for a moment the two of them are frozen. Ande gives a little huff and pulls the demon closer, knocking him off balance and sending him sprawling into the floor. Enoki sputters from his place on the floor, and Ande gives a tired yawn as he settles down on top of the demon like he's Ande's new beanbag chair.
"Let me out! Let me out! You're crushing me!"
Enoki immediately starts kicking, but there's not much he can do in that position, and he's not fighting with any real fire.
"No, you are a good pillow,"
Ande mumbles into his hair and closes his eyes like he's going to go to sleep again, but I can see the smirk that says he just wants to mess with the jittery demon. Enoki, for his part, takes a minute, but he eventually stops struggling and just stays still under Ande's bulk. He huffs and glares up at me, but I just shrug and try to contain my laughter. Avery has no such qualms and freely giggles from where she's reclining behind them.
"Blue, explain this to me. I get why this guy can't go. He'll be asleep the whole time and be a drag at the party. But why don't we get to go?"
Enoki whines. As far as I know, they're going on a pub crawl, and there aren't a lot of establishments that will allow us in alongside our masters. I answer simply, trying hard to avoid any kind of inflection in my voice. Enoki has been the most disturbed out of all of us at the prospect of getting left out of the festivities. Ande's, understandably, been a little preoccupied. I've been nervous. But Enoki's more than perturbed. He's almost mad at the prospect of being left behind. At Kara's insistence, Shauna's kept this party small, but they've picked up a couple of people nonetheless. Day was among the first few invited, and once the news that a prince was coming to the party got out, suddenly demand for the party skyrocketed. I can't help the smirk on my face as I remember Shauna's curt words towards the throngs of students that suddenly wanted to be a part of this celebration. She's good at simple and straightforward rejection in a way that my master is not. He turned frankly amusing shades of red at their prodding, and was only capable of directing them towards Shauna for rejection.
"It just seems stupid,"
Enoki huffs, settling his head on folded arms, getting comfortable in his new pinned position. I don't respond, but I can't help but privately agree.
"Are you sure you're going to be okay?"
Master repeats himself, pulling his hair up into a high tail. "I'll be fine, Master," I say again, my hands going to straighten the wide fabric belt of his tunic almost absent-mindedly. He hasn't dressed too differently than he usually does, but the outfit does have a different feel. He seems fancier. Or maybe it just looks a bit more put together. There's a new necklace that I've never seen before hanging from his neck. It's a fairly simple thing, colored glass beads hanging on a leather thong. He's making an effort for his friends, but it hasn't changed anything about the way he is. It certainly is different from when he donned the military uniform for Genevieve's party. "All right, then." Master speaks gently and moves my hand away from the outfit. It makes my face flush. Right, he doesn't like assistants dressing. I turn away from him and take back up the rag I'd been using to clean the table when he speaks again.
"I was looking through your file."
He speaks calmly, but my mind stutters at the words nonetheless. My leg bumps the table, and I drop the bottle of cleaning fluid that I'd been using. My mind races as I try to go through all the reasons that he might have use for my file. He hasn't mentioned my file since the beginning of my time with him. There's a cloying fear in my stomach as I consider that he might have thought of selling me. No, I can't think that. He said he wouldn't sell me. Well, he hadn't said it in as many words. Stars, I can't remember what he'd said.
"What?"
I wince at my voice. The tone isn't at all the soft and disinterested curiosity that I was hoping it would be.
"I was looking through your paperwork, and I finally found your birthday."
Master clarifies, an odd look passing over his face. Oh! I bite my lip and try not to blurt out my next question. My cheeks flush. There's an instinct there to press my hands to the heated flesh, but I worry if I do so, I'll just draw attention to myself. I don't deserve to ask my question. I don't deserve an answer. But I still want to ask. There's a rolling guilt inside me that I thought he was looking into ways to get rid of me. But is it really such a surprise? Even with all the new attention on the prince, everyone knows that I'm not suitable for my master's purposes. I'm not what he needs, and he's still yet to find a place for me that's not serving as his familiar.
You were born around the 3rd of Venra, the very beginning of Hashinda.
He speaks quietly and waits for a beat, just watching me. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I'm not sure how I feel finally having a date to orient myself. It's something I never thought I would know. Another piece of myself that I never thought I would have. I suppose he was waiting for some kind of reaction, but after my silence extends too long, he starts again.
We'll have to do something fun. Do you have anything special you want to do for your birthday?
He asks, looking me over like the answer might present itself if he just scrutinizes me hard enough. I know he expects words, but all of them fail on my tongue. What would I like to do? It's such a foreign concept that I would have something to celebrate. I try to think of what I might have been doing in years past in the start of summer. The memories that come back to me are not quite activities that I want to repeat. The only birthdays that I've seen I've been attending, and they were gaudy affairs that caused more trouble than they were worth. But there were large cakes and gifts done up in shiny tinsel wrappings that were thrown away and free to claim among the pets. That had been nice.
How about we go out dancing? Would you like that? If you don't, it's fine. We can do something else. Just let me know what you want.
Kara starts to ramble, as apparently I've stayed silent for too long. Thank you. I just a moment to think about it. But yes, that sounds like a lot of fun. I say quickly, trying to ignore my stutter as I try to take in what he's just said. Venra, the start of Hashinda. That's 4 months away when the heat of the season truly starts. I don't know what to do with the idea that he plans to keep me for that long. The idea that he's so casually certain that I'll be around when my birthday arrives that he feels the need to plan for it. There's an absurd impulse to drop to my knees and start weeping, but I ignore it in favor of giving a demure smile that my master returns. He's already prepared me for this, but I still feel the nervous flop of my stomach as he bids me farewell at the door and leaves without me. I stare for an unreasonable amount of time at the door. The shadow of his presence leaves me all the more aware of how alone I am in this house. I try to remind myself that not too long ago I would have relished the chance to be alone without my master in the house. But now it feels almost like a punishment. As much as I might have wished to be left alone in the past, I've never done well with isolation. It's a credit to my trainers that within a few hours I'm jumping at shadows and using far too much of my mind to actively keep myself calm. There's food in the kitchen. Master made sure to leave things out and show me where I could find food if I didn't want what he'd made. But in the end, I just pack it away into small containers and stick it all in the icebox. There's little to do in the house, so I settle for some light housework before turning in early for the night. I'm ready to crawl into the bed and pray for the sweet release of unconsciousness when I see my book, resting on my master's desk. Now, more than ever, I need the distraction of someone else's life. I force myself to take a quick shower and take care of my body before I'm allowed to read. The sheets hold the calming scent of my master, the same scents of old leather and essential oils lulling me into a safe headspace, like it had when I'd first scented him. There's a bizarre impulse to press my face into the sheets and scent, but I shake it off before I can give it any real consideration. I settle for sitting my pillow in my lap and using it like a book stand while I snuggle as far as I can between two of the larger pillows. fully buried in the scent of my master, I feel calm, and I read.
Blue!
I hear the sing-song tone of his voice and the slam of his body as it crashes into the doorframe. I peek out from under the covers, just quick enough to see the master stumbling and trying to right himself by clinging to the wall. I wonder just how badly the world is tilting on him for the white-knuckled grip he has on the door to be justified. I don't need my senses to smell the alcohol on him. Apparently, the good times he was promised by his friends came complete with enough liquor to fully saturate him. I suppose I should be glad that tomorrow isn't a school day, but it doesn't eliminate the worry in my gut. I've never seen my master so much as tipsy before. Stars, what kind of drunk is he? He gave me permission to be on the bed, to go to sleep early. Will he remember that in his intoxicated state? Does he hit harder now that he's not able to properly monitor where and how he hits?
Blue!
His eyes fix on me and he giggles, though I cannot find anything amusing about his intensity.
There you are,
he says in lieu of an explanation. Was he looking for me? Should I have greeted him at the door? He told me that I could go to sleep early, but did he want me to wait up? He takes a few large, heavy steps across the room, tripping a bit over his own 2 feet, but not quite falling over. His hands puzzle with the blanket for a few seconds, seemingly confused when no opening presents itself for him to climb in, before he slides into bed with me. Though perhaps that is too generous, it is more of a barely controlled fall than a slide. His arms go around me, and I'm pulled back against his chest as his arms hold me close.
Ah, Blue! I found you!
He mouths at my neck, and while nothing has happened yet, I can't help the way my mind is a blank slate of terror. This is happening. There's none of the hot arousal in my blood like the times we've played together. Master is drunk, and he wants a plaything. It's not special. It's routine. I didn't realize how big a difference there was until just now. I might as well be a nameless, faceless doll, just something warm and present. There's a part of me that wants to laugh. Of course it would come down to this. It makes sense. All he has to be is a little out of it, and he forgets what he was trying to make me. Or maybe he's just seeing me for what I truly am. Still, that cynical voice in my head chimes in. Being a bed warmer is a significant jump in position. As a whore, I rarely got to the status where Master would call me to his private bedchamber and take me on his sheets. Here, I get to lounge in my master's bed so long as I remain well-behaved. Either way, I never thought it could hurt this much to be faced with something I'm good at. The alcohol leaking off my master's breath is leaving a caustic burn in my nose. My eyes are watering, but that's okay. Master can't see from this position.
Yes, Master, you found me.
I try to force enthusiasm into my voice. I flick my tail against his legs and try to shimmy my hips against him in a bid to be alluring. It's the most robotic movement of my life. There's no allure in it. But Master's drunk. He's not going to notice, right? Warm hands snake their way under my shirt, but then they twist around my waist and stay there, only pulling me closer until I'm flush against the hard planes of Master's body.
No, Blue, I just... Hey, will you say it?
He speaks softly, but right behind my ears to the point that the sensation makes them twitch involuntarily. It's hard to keep up with this man's train of thought when he's sober. I can't hope to follow it when he's drunk.
Say what?
I try to make it as endearing as possible, a silent promise that I'll fulfill any request. I feel his head come down between my shoulder blades as he nuzzles a little closer.
I want you to say my name.
He says it so simply that I think I must have misheard. Master, I try to speak, but he cuts me off.
No, no, master. Just my name. Please, Blue. For my birthday.
There's a smile in his voice that I don't understand as the panic rises in my chest. I only waste a few seconds trying to pull away or turn in his grasp. He can't mean what he's saying. He can't actually want me to call him by his name. It breaks one of the most fundamental rules of conduct. It's one of the first lessons we learn. I feel his breath down my back, the movement as his head comes back up to the base of my neck.
Come on, Blue. Just this once. Nobody's here, I won't tell.
He mouths at the back of my neck. My heart wants to pound out of my chest. Master told me to do it. I have orders. Orders that directly contradict basic training, but orders still. This isn't the name game, and I'm not a kit. He's not going to hurt me for this. For Star's sake, this isn't the first time he's asked this of me. I should be glad for the repetition. There's no change in what he's requested from then to now, so it's a good sign that he's not lying. He's not going to beat me for saying his name. Even though he's drunk and clearly out of his mind, his hands haven't strayed. He's just holding me against him like a pillow. This master is kind. He means it when he orders things. He's not going to hurt me. Kara? It's little more than a squeak, but I hope it's enough because I will not be able to say it again. My hands go over my mouth and my stomach churns inside my body, railing against my own stupidity. My mind races, and when Master stiffens behind me, I'm sure that I've made a mistake. He sighs, quiet, but no less despondent. For a moment I'm afraid he's disappointed, that this has all been an act to test me. His hands unwind from their place around my hips, and I have a momentary flash of panic. No, 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 please don't leave. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I'll never do it again. I'll show you the respect you deserve. Please don't leave me alone. But he just repositions himself and presses a gentle kiss on the top of my head.
Right. Kara. That's very good, Blue. You can use my name anytime we're alone. Okay?
It's all I can do to stay still as he repositions me in bed. He pulls me against him, but this time he pulls me in, and my head rests comfortably on his chest, right next to his steady heartbeat while our legs tangle together in the sheets.
You want to know a secret, Blue?
Master's voice is thick with sleep, but I nod against his chest. I'm glad he's here, grounding me. I don't know if it's a question he wants me to respond to, but I want him to keep going until he fades off into sleep. It's been so long since we just talked, told stories, and passively enjoyed each other's presence. Lately, it feels like we've got a tension between us, keeping us from acting normally around each other. It's nice to just hear Master's voice and not have to be on edge at all times.
It's my birthday.
He says it like it's some kind of surprise. Yes, Master, I know. I speak softly, wondering if he remembers telling me, if he remembers the start of the day.
Oh, Blue.
He props his head up to see out the window. From my position, I can barely make out the speckling of stars in the night sky.
It's gotta be well past midnight by now.
He nuzzles his nose into the top of my head.
I'm celebrating my birthday with you, Blue. I'm officially 23.
His speech is still slurred, but there's no mistaking his words.
What's this?
His voice startles me out of my shock, and he pulls my book from where he must have bumped his hand against it in bed. My heart nearly stutters to a halt where it sits in my chest as I realize I must have fallen asleep with the book in the bed. He won't be mad, right? If anything, he might like that I take such comfort in his gifts, right? Then again, he doesn't often bring books to bed. He might disapprove of that, though he is quite practiced at falling asleep with his books when he's at his desk. "It's the book you gave me, master." The response comes automatically, as though I have no control over my words with my mind elsewhere. He pulls me just a little bit closer and sets the book onto his desk.
"Why don't you tell me what you're reading about?"
"I just started on Veth's start with magic, as the dragon taught her to dance. How to manipulate the woven strings of the universe," I say quickly, thinking back to the last major thing that had happened before my weariness overwhelmed me and I left the book in the bed. I don't want him to think me ungrateful, especially when he's so clearly not himself. If I'm lucky, he won't remember anything of tonight once morning comes, so all I have to do is keep the skin on my back until then. As Master nods along, gesturing for me to continue, I go over every scrap of the tale I'm familiar with, parroting back all that I can remember as I turn over these new facts in my mind. Words of the Jandi forces and their move into Veth's village and the greater narrative of the text pour out of me like water. I talk until my master is asleep beneath me, his heavy breaths and steady heartbeat a grounding reassurance that I desperately needed. I know that sleep will not come again tonight. My master is 23, not 28, and his birthday is a day later than he shared with his friends. But the question remains, why did he lie?